Hi everyone, thanks for tuning into our Scale2Zero show. Today we have Gaurav Batra with us. Gaurav is the founder and CEO of CyberTrack, a cross-training platform for next-generation cybersecurity and risk leaders. Earlier, he was global information security and cloud expert at Mondelez International. Gaurav, thank you so much for joining with us today.
Thanks, Purushottam, for having me on the show.
All right, let's get started with the questions. So the first question is, what methods would you recommend to bring awareness and develop a security-centric culture and mindset in an organization?
Sure, Purushottam. I think that's very interesting question, and it's a need of the hour. So today, most of if we see the attacks which are happening, they are not happening from the perspective of attacking the technical boundaries, but it's exploiting the user behavior and making them make some mistakes about it. So awareness becomes an important aspect in today's environment. And when we talk about training, or traditionally, what people are doing, they're getting some expert or some videos, and they're asking them to provide a security training to their employees, which goes like 1 hour or 1.5 hours together. And then someone comes in, bombard all the security jargons to those all people, like it's a what's DDoS, what is phishing, how to protect their password, things like they have along a lot of vector in 1.5 year, half hour it provided to the user. And after then 1 year 6 months, no one talks about the security. So that is the real issue. So when we talk about user behavior and how you see the schooling has happened to us, it's not that you have learned mathematics in one day, you have not learned English in one day. It's a continuous process, right? So what we have to do is, when we are talking about security awareness to the users, we have to create content in a way where user will able to correlate and able to understand how their day to day life will get impacted with this. And this should be a continuous efforts, like I have been working with many organization where when they say that, okay, you want to do the training, I said, okay, let's not do a training for 1.5 hours in a year. Let's do it every 2 3 minutes in a week, so that continuously with the same amount of time people get to learn. So you can actually explore the contents like videos, or which is in trend these days, the motion graphics. And the gamification is the biggest thing, and how we can actually simulate the scenarios
Mhm.
where the user experts, like phishing simulation, these are quite in days. And what you have to do is simply put this in your organization, and if anyone clicks on malicious link, they have to go through a mandatory training and understand the impact of the things they are clicking. And if the user is doing again and again, then you should have a separate treatment. We can also encourage something like whoever reports more security incidents, whoever do something there, make a culture of security ambassadors, security champions. And also create something for the users so that they are willing to be part of security people feels like it's hectic, boring. Make it interesting, make the content which user can actually correlate. I know there are many good organizations which are doing well in this, like I'll give you free quick few portals like AwareGo. They have a human centric videos which 1 to 2 minutes.
Okay.
We have Ninjio, who has characteristic based. Even we have made a small platform called Cult Site, that is culture site, envisioning the security culture in your organization. And it's like 2 minutes content with uh, gamification, crosswords, Kahoot, and motion graphics. We are trying to do awareness. So that is what I say. Instead of having 120 minutes in one time,
Mhm.
have it 2 minutes every weekend. It's in a year. Make a consistent effort.
So it's more of a continuous learning process rather than a one one
Exactly.
time activity.
And where user can actually correlate,
Right.
where you can actually make them user that, okay, yes, this can happen to me. Because a persona based awareness is also required, because sometimes HR thinks it's a technical work, or finance team. So if we can make content where we can say, okay, if this happened, that is how it will impact your finance,
Correct.
how the HR day to day activities required to be aware for the security. So that is what we need to do.
Makes sense. Okay. Now,
Yeah.
the next question. With the rise in migration to the cloud, cybersecurity and data protection are becoming like top drivers for legal disputes. What litigation risks should CISOs or security teams be concerned about, and what can they do about it?
Okay, so Cloud migration is, yes, the way to go, and everyone is even it's if the startups or everything, because it's easy to start, so people are moving to the cloud. Okay, the thing is, if we look the traditional or legacy, you control the environment. Here, when you go to the cloud, you don't have the rights beyond the virtualization layer.
Right.
Okay, so how this virtual before the virtualization, what kind of server, what kind of hardware is placed, you don't have the right to see, right to do a VAPT or functionality test or testing, which is a big issue. So now, earlier, one thing which you control, you know where the data is, and if something required tomorrow, how you can get it. But inside of the controls, when you're in the cloud environment, which a CISOs or the security professional don't have, and when I talk about privacy,
Mhm.
you need to have that. So that is the biggest challenge. And when I spoke to many of the clients, and when they say, okay, I'll go to move to the cloud, so let me one thing, if tomorrow government goes to the cloud provider and ask that for this particular company I want to have the server, or I want to have a look into this,
Mhm.
will that cloud provider will allow them or not?
Right.
So how that's gonna happen, because in my environment, if they come to me, before I give them the permission, I know they are coming, and if I need to do something, whatever it is, right, I can do. But will the cloud will act in the same way?
Right.
And the another biggest issue is, the CISOs or the security professional are technical in nature, and they generally don't have the expertise to read between the
Mhm.
lines. And when you are migrating something to the cloud, and when you have to do the only precautions you can have is having a right level of contract in your favor.
Mhm.
So, like, right to audit, right to visit and ask the question, what kind of controls you have, what how I can see, how I can test. And generally, if the big players will not provide you that kind of access, but small cloud providers who are new, they will give you the kind of right of audits,
Okay.
as well as do some scale of testing or something. But if something happens tomorrow, if there is a privacy leak,
Mhm.
if something, what kind of penalty clause you gonna have, what kind of service level agreement you have, how, not only the service level agreement, because I see that if thing has happened, you have responded to me, but if the things are happening again and again, so there is something called as SCA as well, service excellence agreement.
Okay.
So how that's gonna work? So reading between those lines, defining the right contract is the only thing which will save you from the cloud. So the controls which you have the control over the virtualization layer and above, right? Whatever you can control, but beyond that, the contract is the only safeguard to you.
Okay.
So having the right expertise in the team to define the right contract, and reading between the lines and making it in your favor is the must thing to have.
Okay. Makes sense. I didn't know about SEA, so that's something new I learned. Thank you. So the next question, for a health tech startup, what is the right time to hire the first security team member, and why do you think that?
Okay, so Purushottam, I have a question here. Why health tech startup? Okay, so when you are talking about tech startup, there is a. I don't think anyone even think that they can hire a security one at the later
Right.
stage. When you have a thinking that you are going to have a tech startup, the security should come in place the very first time you are thinking about tech,
Mhm.
because earlier, there used to be scenarios when you are actually making something, and in 3 months or 6 months down the line, you get to know if there was a fraud happening. But if you are into the tech environment and you are starting up something, the day you launch it, immediately there will be people who are trying to hack it, break it, or
Right.
trying to bring it down. And you are going to sell your tech services, so there is no calling it at a later stage. Your first hire, even if you are thinking about a tech startup, your first hire should be the security, that this is something I am going to do. Can you tell me what all things I need to be taken care of? I'll tell you, many of the students I meet, they are from the college, they are starting to make the application, they are making some tools and things. And when say that, okay, governance perspective, what they are doing, any security controls they have put, if they have done BAPT, they know, by making a small application on Android, they are collecting all the user data, right? After the data, where it is getting stored, who is having the control of it, they are not even bothered about it,
Correct.
right? And immediately, if something happens, who will be behind the bars? So who will be taken care of this, who will be responsible for this? These are the startups. So whenever, even if you are in a college and you are starting a make a application, either it's a health tech or any kind of tech, you need to have a security preview. Even if not a immediate hire you need to have a some consulting firm or someone, part time, a virtual CISO or a auditor who can actually guide you,
Mhm.
that when you are making this application, these are the steps you need to take care of. And also the hire, from the hiring perspective, even the first developer you hire or the engineer you hire, they should know the security, because now everyone, if you have something, uh, written coding in your resume, people will not pick up. They will ask you to write secure coding. You need to know secure coding. You need to be a security engineer, security developer, and that is how DevSecOps is also coming in picture.
Correct.
So whoever it is, whatever, if the tech startup is there, security needs to be there.
Makes sense. The next question is, for a growing business, what security metrics are most important to monitor?
Okay, so for a growing business, or it's even a small business or whatever, the security practices, I think today everyone need to have. The very first thing I will say, they need to have a security management program.
Mhm.
Okay, they should have like what all they need in security, like as you previous question you mentioned about health tech, or if it's a manufacturing industry or educational tech or whatever, if the business is into retail. So first thing, what kind of security program they need to have, that management should be there, that who will act on that security. And after that, I'll tell you the very first thing which comes in my mind is the access control, right?
Makes sense.
Who is going to have access to my infrastructure, my data. So today we talk about zero trust policy, and if I'm opening it up for my employees or my colleagues, what kind of access they have, what kind of external access I'm giving. So access control will be the first thing, and then you need to have some monitoring space in there, like how many people are actually failing to log in,
Mhm.
what kind of false positive are coming in, if the right kind of people, how many passwords are getting changed every year, because that gives you an insight that how many intruders are trying to come into your environment. Okay, so then having after access control, I think data encryption is what is required for a growing business, because data is the new oil these days, and securing it is the most crucial thing which we have. So putting up the right kind of encryption, like I'll say that when I talk about data encryption, it's about having your right visibility to the asset inventory as well, right? If you have 15 20 mobiles getting used in your organization, and then there are like 50 laptops, then what kind of encryption are done on what devices, what are unencrypted devices. So kind of having a full control over there, which is required. And then I'll put two another things apart from this, is like having business continuity,
Mhm.
which is like creating the backup of the systems or the core systems which you have.
Right.
What are your I'll say, again, come to the data classification and then going to the crown jewels. What are your key infrastructure level servers or the laptops or the resources you have, and then do I have a backup for the same or not? Okay, because in case what is happening, even the issue with the startup is they are have a very limited business or a limited budget for the setting up something, and then once they set up, immediately creating a backup facility for the same is also very difficult. But for the growing business, it is must to have, because if something some incident, some system failure happen, it's getting recover out of it is very difficult, and that can actually impact the growth they have started with that
Right.
path.
Right.
Okay, so and then the last I will say incident response, because if we have access control, if we have data encryption and asset inventory, if we have put the business continuity system failure and everything, patching level and everything we are checking. So then if some incident happen, how we are going to monitor and what kind of incidents we are having every month. So that those are the few key aspects I will advise all the CISOs of the small businesses or the growing business to have minimum.
Okay. This answer is somewhat related to the last question as well. Like, what steps would you recommend to recover from a ransomware attack? Because those are pretty normal nowadays, right? We hear about ransomware attacks almost every other day.
Yeah. So, frankly, if I'll say ransomware is more about taking the precautionary steps. Okay. So if the ransomware attack happens in your organization, the paying and getting the key will not help, because if they are already in your system, they can do it again, and then they must be having the data from you, which is happening again. The only safeguard I will say from ransomware will be recovering it from the clean backup. Okay. And formatting your systems and having it from the previous clean backup. And if you don't have a clean backup, then that is a gone case. So that is why I say ransomware is nowadays, with people knowing about this ransomware and so much awareness which is happening from there, the having the right kind of backup is must.
Right.
And if the attack happens, so that you are ready, so that you can recover your systems from a clean backup. Else what you will be doing is you will be hiring some coders, or the malware experts, who can actually try to generate the keys for you, then recover the data for you, or you have to end up paying up with the ransomware, and which people are doing.
Right.
Which I will say, if you don't have a backup, you don't have the option,
Right.
you have to do. But then that's not a safe option, because if you do this, this can happen to you tomorrow again. So having a right sort of backup, and then restoring your system from the clean backup is what will help you in case of ransomware.
Right. Makes sense. So now let's move to the rapid fire section. So, what is one of the myths about cybersecurity?
That I'm 100% secure.
uh, what advice would you give to your 25-year-old self starting in security, and why?
I'll say, don't assume,
Hmm.
but ask. Okay, so I have been doing the things, and where many things which we assumed, and you are acting on. But I will always now tell myself, when you're doing something, always ask, never assume. Get the clarification again and again if required.
So, in one sentence, let's say if you are hiring, what stands out in a candidate's resume?
The diversity of the work they have done. Okay, so I mainly hire in my organization many freshers having 6 months to 1 year of experience, or they are coming directly from the college. The resume which I see, then there are freshers, they have just spent 4 years doing their degree, or maybe a one internship or a project which college has must. And then I have seen the profiles, from the very first year of the college, people are doing something, and by the time they have done the degree in 4 years, they have done like more than 20 projects. So, and in different areas, so that means that person has that kind of, and so diversity of work which I can see in the resume definitely helps to have or talk to that person.
What what's your persona animal?
Okay, I don't know how to define it, but if I need to say, I will say wolf. Okay. It's more of devoted, caring, and family person.
Nice. A one-line quote that keeps you going.
uh, I don't know about the quote, but I have one thing which I will always love to do is just do it. Okay. And it's not a quote, but it has the saying in my thing, like whatever coming your way, and if the kind of attitude which I have in my day to day environment is like, if the things which take like less than 5 minutes, do it immediately, just do it. Okay. And another thing which I put it in is, there is perfection is a myth.
Mhm.
So if you have to do something, if you have to roll out, even if you we are interviewing this, if this needs to happen, let's do it. Let's just do it.
Okay, makes sense. Right. Thanks, Gaurav. It was lovely to chat with you. Looking forward to learn more from you in future.
It's lovely talking to you, Purushottam, and really thanks for having me here, and great connect.